Okay, Janet, I think that's okay now.
It's very appropriate as my clock is chiming in the background. So, hello to you all. Another start to the week, or certainly a precious part of our week being together. So let us settle and begin with the opening prayer. O God, come to our assistance. O Lord, make haste to help us. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. Annie has chosen a beautiful reading for us to begin our time of meditation, and her title, Come and See, is a reflection of what this reading offers us. And it begins with a short reading from Colossians. May he strengthen you in his glorious might, with ample power to meet whatever comes, with fortitude, patience and joy, and to give thanks to the Father who has made you fit to share the heritage of God's people in the realm of light. And John Main's commentary. St. Paul invites us to be strengthened with divine strength and with God's power that is always more than enough. We must remember that this faith conviction is what Christianity is all about. The Christian life is learning to live out of this ample power of God, not looking at our lives just in terms of how we can cope by ourselves, but realizing that there is an unlimited source of power reaching to us. Thus the call to share the heritage of God's people in the realm of light. This is the most extraordinary language describing an extraordinary experience. The glorious might and ample power of God are offered to each one of us to meet whatever comes with fortitude, that is, with hope and courage and patience. As we begin our time of meditation together across the world, Heavenly Father, open our hearts to the silent presence of the Spirit of your Son. Lead us into that mysterious silence where your love is revealed to all who call. Maranatha, come, Lord Jesus. The little group of people that welcome the speaker each week, we're called the Welcomers, and it's a much better title than any other title I think that we might hold, the Welcomer. So it is with great pleasure that I'm going to introduce Penny. I'm sure that I've met Penny somewhere over the years, but it seems not. But it does mean that Penny's name has gone before her. I know that many of you will be aware of Penny's work in the community. She's been ever present, really, over many, many years, and fulfilled a number of roles, continues to do so. So her biography that she sent out is one offered with great humility. She's an Australian meditator, been with the community for so many years, recognizing how we are touched by the welcome and love that each of us gives one another. And again, that recognition of this global community that we belong to. Countless countries where I've been able to share the gift of meditation with my fellow pilgrims, she says, especially those involved with the work with children and young people. And so many friends on the Benedict's Well each week. It is a very special place. And so Penny's going to offer her reflections of gratitude to everyone who seeks and finds their centre in silence, stillness and simplicity. And I don't know where Penny is in Australia, but I think the internet is a little unstable. So if she needs to, she'll turn off her video, but will continue to be very, very present with us. So Penny, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Janice. And hello, everyone. Just wonderful to be with you. So when I shared some thoughts in the setting of Benedict's Well 2 years ago, and it was actually on the 8th of February, 2021, I posed the redemptive question that had been asked of me: what are you waiting for? Now, perhaps there's another redemptive question for me at the moment. What are you looking for? Or even, what do you see? And I'll come back to that in a minute. In retrospect, one certainty that was awaiting for me that short time ago was death. My beloved husband, David, died on the 16th of March, 2022, after a diagnosis in 2020 of metastatic prostate cancer. Another certainty was that he died fully alive, and he's very greatly missed by us. That is, by me, our 6 children and their partners, our 13 grandchildren, his extended family, and his many, many friends. And I feel I can say from my own experience something that Father John said. End and beginning are 2 ends of the string of life, held in the mystery of God and joined together in the mystery of Christ. Since David's death and my adjustment after more than 55 years together, I'm saying I instead of we, and my instead of our, and I'm settling into a single bed and a single train ticket. And I'm also finding new ways of expressing that something beyond the I, called by Martin Buber the thou. It's a pondering which has been with me since my university days when I met David. As the psalmist said, he was my rock, my fortress, my shield, and I was his. I've also become very aware of that delicate balance of holy darkness, holy light, They're Eileen O'Hay's words. And the life, death, resurrection mystery in much of my daily life. And I imagine that many of you who have experienced the loss of a partner or a loved one will resonate with this. The poet David Scott put this perfectly in his poem Resurrection. He says, "I think it took her death to do it. The light that emanated from the space she left spoke resurrection. Who she was took hold of time and turned it inside out. The old laughter, which took such toll of pompous hats and dirty hymns, was transfigured into something which got under the skin of suffering and put it in its place. So now I tell the secret that resurrection is the glass through which we see things differently. And what was first in the mind of God becomes the truth at last." So in these few moments together, I want to tease out and ponder and listen to that new question for me. What are you looking for? And more specifically at the invitation, come and see. And I want to look at just how pilgrimage and stability stand firmly on the same sacred ground, and what it is to both set out and yet to stay where you are. Unlike the words go and look, in the invitation to pilgrimage, come and see, there's a two-way flow. Both the inviter and the invitee are engaged in movement, perhaps almost a dance. One of suggestion, invitation, enticement, encouragement, openness, expectation, and perhaps ultimately welcome. And the other of acceptance, conversion, a turning, a new direction, action, response, and I want to say gratitude. So whereas on a trip or a voyage, the departure is from A to B, or perhaps to C, if our current air travel is any indication, a pilgrimage may or may not have a destination in the sense of an arrival point. The journey itself is the fulfillment of the pilgrim's longing as the heart goes walking. That's to use David Scott's words in another poem of his, Heart on Pilgrimage. Pilgrimage is intentional, disciplined, in the sense of discipleship, a state of being, living, staying, or abiding as a learner, looking, listening, and following in the steps of others who are also disciples, companions in the company of Christ. As Rowan Williams says, learning a new attentiveness to all persons, places, and things, being attentive to where Christ is going, keeping company with those he is with. Being summoned to see with the eyes of Christ and to love with the heart of Christ, John Main's words, requires a practice of other-centeredness. And it is the work of both pilgrimage and meditation that slowly unpicks that preoccupation with me and allows the tapestry of God-shaped change to become our mantle as we diminish in egoism, but I feel standing resplendent in the magnificence of creation within, around, and amongst us. Dietrich Bonhoeffer once wrote, "There is a meaning in every journey that is unknown to the traveller." And I add that expectations, certainties, and measurable outcomes are not part of the pilgrim's vocabulary any more than they are of a meditator's. And I want to suggest, though, that this movement of the pilgrim is woven through with stability. Stability in the sense of stay with what must be gone through, as Father John says. And I quote again, divine energy develops the human capacity to stay with what must be gone through. It also releases the joy to expand our hearts and celebrate what must be celebrated. And this speaks to me of what I refer to as my bittersweet grief, acceptance and even relief in the midst of sadness and loss. As Rowan Williams says, suffering is neither to be mastered nor to be fled, but to be utilized and transformed. Pilgrims are not what St. Benedict would have called gyrovagues. I think I've got that right. Those who spend their entire lives drifting from region to region, staying as guests for 3 or 4 days in a monastery and moving on, always moving, never settling down. Joan Chittister says of them, Benedict decried them because of their lack of direction and good work. The pilgrim instinct instead celebrates the words of the prophet Micah that echo of both direction and good work. He says, what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God? Thomas Merton wrote in his notebook on his fateful last journey to Bangkok, our real journey in life is interior. It is a matter of growth, deepening, and of an even greater surrender to the creative action of love and grace in our hearts. And he said, just go for walks, live in peace, let change come quietly and invisibly on the inside. And this is where stability holds its own. As Rowan Williams says, it's about standing next to the same person quietly for years on end. We're always going to be faced with what isn't me and not under my control. So I sense that firstly, we must stand firmly next to ourselves before the otherness of others is lived with and appreciated. And the Gospels too abound with this pilgrim journey theme. Jesus was always on the move. He and his disciples shared this invitation to come and see on several occasions. And what are you looking for are his first spoken words. Our string of life between beginning and end is just that journey, the inward journey. And I'm quoting Marcus Borg. He wrote, pilgrimage is a journeying towards God. It expresses the yearning of the heart to be in the presence of God. During pilgrimage, the self is pointed toward the destination. It is a physical embodiment of inclining the heart toward God. Meditation has always been understood as this way of vision. And it's been described by Father John as the process whereby we open the eyes of our heart and learn to see with love. They're familiar words, I'm sure, to many of you. And there are familiar words of Jesus too, when he says, whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And this speaks to me of pilgrimage as a way of opening ourselves to transformation through self-knowledge, to self-abandonment, to real life. And for the Christian pilgrim, if Christ is the end of the journey, he is equally the impulse toward the journey and the support on the journey. So finally, and very briefly, to my pilgrimage. So I recently returned from a month-long pilgrimage. It was a conscious and intentional response to an invitation by family members to leave the Australian summer and share a northern winter with Christmas and New Year in my beloved Italy. There might also have been a very subtle invitation by my grandchildren to do a few cartwheels in the snow, just on my days off, as Janet suggested last week. There was another equally important and generous invitation from a fellow meditator in the UK to meet her face to face in her home for the first time after we had been meditating together for more than 2 years online every week. Come and see, she said in her email. So I did. I knew from the outset that this was not going to be a holiday in the usual touristy fashion, but more like holy days, blessings daily of discovery, exploration, and challenge, to remind me of my life's pilgrimage to go deeper still. We begin in faith, we continue in faith we arrive. These are Father John's words about the pilgrimage of prayer in meditation, and I took these as a keepsake, a vade mecum, for my journey from the familiar shore to what Father John called the further shore of our origin. And I also took with me a small book called Ponder These Things, Praying with the Icons of the Virgin by Rowan Williams. And I'm grateful to Rowan Williams for the many blessings I have received from his writings and my personal contact with him over the years, especially in the work with meditation with children. Our reading before meditation today finished with the words, "The glorious might and ample power of God are offered to each one of us to meet whatever comes with fortitude, that is hope, courage, and patience." And I set out on this adventure to meet whatever came with that fortitude that Father John speaks of, with hope and courage and patience, but not necessarily in that order. Like the journey of meditation, I knew that I needed those gifts of hope, courage, and patience to pay attention, that waiting attention that awaited me with a kind of selflessness and openness, where I was asked to do little but taste the simple enjoyment of the truth. And I love the way Rowan Williams puts this. He says, "You put your thoughts and anxieties on the back burner. You open yourself to what's there, and you allow your mind to be shaped by what's in front of you, responding to the demands of what is simply there, what is simply not me, insisting that I conform my mind and will to its reality." I'm not planning to share my hundreds of photographs with you or give you a daily itinerary or chronology to whet your appetite for familiar or perhaps not so familiar places where I stopped, paused, and knelt in prayer on so many occasions as I came, I think, to a new frontier in my relationship with myself and with God. Occasionally, I felt that I was approaching or even crossing a boundary, a no-go zone, or a previously uncharted place. But the invitation, come and see, was irresistible. And this was certainly true of my arrival on Lindisfarne, or Holy Island, in Northumberland, England, not far from the Scottish border. Here, there are times when, because of the tide, you cannot physically cross that boundary. A sand spit connecting the island to the mainland becomes impassable until the next low tide. But once that boundary or causeway was crossed, there was a new landscape inviting me to inhabit and settle into, at least till the next low tide. As I made my way by crossing by taxi, I was aware of the markers, tall posts that indicate St. Cuthbert's Way across the sand for pilgrims who are travelling by foot. And I was aware too that in our journey of meditation, we are often pointed towards such road signs or given direction by a gentle word of encouragement from a fellow meditator, or some much loved passage of Father John's or Father Lawrence's. We are also guided by an inner compass that reminds us that only in God can our true destiny be revealed. I was surprised at times by a sense of loss and risk in the isolation of the high tide. But at the same time, I had a real sense of being where I am, not just physically on the edge of the North Sea, alone, all one with the migratory birds that arrived hour by hour on those cold days, but truly rooted and content with my own company and the embrace of the God who would not let go of me, from whom I could not hide, and whose human face I saw so often along the way. Holy island indeed, a place that felt transitional for a southern hemisphere lass, where the completely foreign was brought together with the familiar. There were weathered stones and shells and glass on the beach, black-faced sheep on wind-swept hillocks, and ruins of prayer-filled cloisters shot with the red sun of a magnificent dawn. Here I saw the ordinary with the extraordinary, the ordinary fabric of my life, the simple things of every day, interwoven with transcendence, the divine goodness, divine power, and divine love. Rowan Williams' words again. At last we find the God who has taken up residence in the heart of our humanity, who prays when we are not looking, not trying, who is at work when we are silent or helpless, and who can never be pinned down to here or there in our individual lives or in the church at large. All we can do is keep our eyes on the world in its fullness and our hands and hearts open to God, letting God be God in us through the prayer Jesus prays as he gives us the Spirit. Come and see, said my friend Susan, and I did just that. St. Cuthbert, inspiring, informing, and inviting my way from York to Durham, to Berwick-on-Tweed, to Lindisfarne, and all the way back to Australia. Mary Lowe's beautifully crafted book, St. Cuthbert's Way, A Pilgrim's Companion, was a true friend and a tempter for a longer pilgrimage some other time. In the meantime, I stay with the daily commitment to the discipline of meditation that is for me a constant setting out on the road of faith and openness to the God that is God, the God that is one, and the God that is love. Like many pilgrims to Lindisfarne before me, I left a cairn on a windswept beach. I'm just going to show you that image. It's a pyramid of stones as a memorial, a mane tecum. That image will endure for me. It is stable. It will stay with what must be gone through. It will endure the changing winds, the changing tide, the changing sand, and the wanderings of animals and man. Since returning home, I've wondered what I have brought home of the God who had been walking with me on the way. If we should be going back from pilgrimage with eyes wider open, as Rowan Williams suggests, then yes, I think I am even more in awe and wonder than I have ever been of mystery in, between, and amongst us. Some encounters I had along the way could only be described as Christ encounters. If holy places are places where our vision is transfigured, not so much in simply seeing God afresh, but as always, from that seeing of God, seeing the world afresh and ourselves in it, as Rowan Williams says, then yes, I have been to holy places. And lastly, if new frontiers have been crossed, not from one bit of the world's territory to another, but from one level of being in the world to another, a deeper belonging with God and creation, then yes, I have experienced such moments with that fortitude, courage, hope, and patience that accompanied me. And at the outset, I mentioned gratitude as something that the one invited to come and see must surely acknowledge. And I humbly and graciously say thank you to those who lit my way and opened my heart to this pilgrimage. I also urge you to listen for that invitation, come and see, and perhaps to make it your introduction to someone who inquires about the way of meditation. Remember, John Main says the most important thing to know about meditation is how to meditate. And all our journeys of meditation in this Christian tradition that underpin our meeting weekly at Benedict's Well begin and began when someone communicated to us the very how to meditate. For the Christian, the invitation come and see is a Christ-led, Christ-guided, and Christ-fulfilled one. And John Main says, the invitation that Jesus gives us is to see that the ordinary fabric of our lives, the simple things of every day, are interwoven with transcendence, the divine goodness, divine power, and divine love. And I want to end with the words of T.S. Eliot from his poem Little Gidding from 4 quartets. Little Gidding, I believe, is in Cambridgeshire, England, and that was another pilgrim's true north. Yours may have been Santiago de Compostela or Bonneau, or wherever your inner compass guides you on your invitation to pilgrimage and stability. So from T.S. Eliot. And what you thought you came for is only a shell, a husk of meaning, from which the purpose breaks only when it is fulfilled, if at all. Either you had no purpose, or the purpose is beyond the end you figured and is altered in fulfillment. There are other places which are also the world's end, some at sea jaws, or over a dark lake, or in a desert or a city. But this is the nearest in place and time, now and in England. If you came this way, taking any route, starting from anywhere, at any time, or at any season, it would be the same. You would have to put off sense and notion. You are not here to verify, instruct yourself, or inform curiosity, or carry report. You are here to kneel where prayer has been valid. And prayer is more than an order of words, the conscious occupation of the praying mind or the sound of the voice praying. And what the dead had no speech for when living, they can tell you being dead. The communication of the dead is tongued with fire beyond the language of the living. Here, the intersection of the timeless moment is England and nowhere, never and always. Thank you.
Well, Penny, I started to write notes and I just wanted to listen. So there are just a few words of reflection, but I am quite certain that all of us will want to return to what you've just shared. And thankfully that can be done on the YouTube. And I also hope that the transcript could be available as well, Penny, because there was so much in what you were offering. And I'm left with only a few words, really. What are you waiting for? What are you looking for? What do you see? Were those three questions that you asked us at the very beginning. And you also described the pilgrimages that you've been on. And I wrote down Eileen O'Hay's Holy Darkness, Holy Light that you referred to, and in my little notes the word gratitude. That's the only summary that I can offer now, but please, all of you, I'm sure that you will want to return to what Penny was offering us, and with great gratitude, Penny. And you can see all the thanks that are coming through now, which Mary will faithfully type up for you to reflect on in your own time. They'll be sent to you. So another wonderful, wonderful, inspiring sharing and the offer of our own pilgrimage today and from here on in our lives. So let's end with our prayer, our Benedictine prayer. May the divine assistance be always with us and with our absent brothers and sisters. Amen. And with thanks to all who come and see at Benedict's Well, but particularly to the what I would call the back office team, with great thanks. So Mary, I'll hand over to you.
Yes, a big thank you again to Penny for her talk today. And just quickly, because I'm aware of the time, next week our speaker will be Mark Ball. He is an oblate in the community. He's a Church of England priest and is a chaplain to a large shopping centre in the south of England. He has recently completed the Leader Teacher programme in the community and is a regional coordinator. So as you can see, he is a busy man, which probably explains why as yet we do not know what the title of his talk is going to be. So that's going to be a surprise for us all next Monday. And we look forward to hearing from him. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. God bless everybody.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. That was very beautiful and moving. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny.